Also known as Biohazard in Japan, the original Resident Evil was released back in 1996 and was met with some pretty moderate success. I mean, it did manage to spawn multiple sequels and spin-offs, an entire movie franchise that we'll never talk about, pioneer 2 different genres, and oh yeah, it had a remake. And that is what we're here to talk about today. The Resident Evil Remake is one of my favorite horror games ever made. And with the release of Resident Evil 7, I figured it was time to take a look at this classic. With that in mind, this is the Resident Evil Remake.
Resident Evil.
The story of Resident Evil is as follows. The STARS Bravo team, which I'm assuming to be Capcom's version of SWAT, has gone missing during a mission outside Raccoon City. Now Alpha Team has been sent in to try and find them. While searching for them, that happened. And they're forced to take shelter in a nearby mansion. When you start the game, you actually get the choice between 2 playable characters, Chris Redfield and Jill Valentine. I'll talk more about the differences between the characters later, but I'll mainly be focusing on Jill's story, mostly because she has more story to tell, and recent games have cited it as being canon.
Oh my god, are you okay?
Yeah, I was almost a Claire sandwich.
Ugh, does Barry tell everyone that story?
As the game goes on, Jill only runs into a handful of characters. There's Wesker, who shows up only a couple of times and likes to shoot bees for some reason. Richard, whose only reason for existing is to die and give you a shiny new shotgun. And most importantly, there's Barry. Throughout the game, Barry supports the player in a number of ways, from giving you key items and resources, to even saving Jill on a few occasions. But Barry's constant involvement makes one of the key problems with the story very obvious. The writing. Now, don't get me wrong, the writing, and the acting for that matter, is a massive improvement over the original. But it's still pretty cheesy. Another thing the story suffers from is the oh-so-timeless cliche of constantly splitting up.
Anyway, we should get back to searching for Wesker and Chris. Let's continue our investigation. There's gotta be a back door somewhere.
Alright then, let's split up again.
We should split up again and investigate.
All right.
Jesus! Even Scooby-Doo thinks this is ridiculous. Anyways, the story as a whole works, they just have some problems with the writing. More on that later. One thing that the remake nails perfectly is its presentation. Let's go ahead and start with the best part, the mansion. The mansion in this game is beautiful, especially for a game made back on the GameCube. And yes, I am playing the remastered version on PS4, but I don't think they really had changed that much. But back to the mansion itself. Everything in the mansion is extremely detailed, with every room having its own distinct feeling. As the game goes on, you will know your way around this map. The mansion isn't even the only area you'll get to explore in this game. There's also the courtyard, the residence, and even multiple underground areas. The way the developers were able to create this much detail was through the use of pre-rendered backgrounds. For those who don't know, pre-rendered backgrounds are very simple areas with still images placed over top of them, sometimes with very simple animation. Along with making the environment look great, they also allow the developers to put more detail into the characters. You can make out small details like hair or small creases in clothing. Okay, I know that doesn't sound too impressive, but that was rare when this game was made. The humans aren't the only ones that look great. The monsters look fantastic. They all look grotesque, deformed, and above all else, threatening. The only negative thing I can say about the game graphically is the CG cutscenes. For some reason, all the dark areas in the scenes have this weird purple shade, making some of them hard to watch. However, I've never seen anyone actually mention this, so that might be something wrong on my end. The game also has great sound design. Throughout most of the game, there is no music, leaving the player to listen to their own footsteps as they traverse the area. Everything is made to make you feel more tense, from the footsteps, the creaking floors, to even something banging on the windows. When there is music, this doesn't really change. Even the safe room music makes me feel uneasy. Now, something that I hear some people complain about is the voice acting in this game. Like everything else, the voice acting is a major improvement over the original. However, people still think that it's pretty bad. As for me, I think it's alright at best. With the exception of a few lines, a lot of the problems with the dialogue is not the fault of the actors, but again, the writing. There are some lines in the game where there's no way anyone could have made them work. This leads to a lot of the game's cheesiness.
That was a close one. A second late, you would have fit nicely into a sandwich.
I rest my case. I think it's about time we talk about Resident Evil's control scheme. Yeah, whenever I hear people talk about this, it's usually pretty split. Some people love the tank controls and fixed camera angles, where others think it's just bad game design. I for one really like the control scheme, but I do see the problems that come with it. Let me explain. In Resident Evil, instead of controlling from the perspective of the camera, you always control from the perspective of the character, meaning up will always make you go forward no matter where you're facing. I actually got used to this playstyle pretty fast, so I have nothing to complain about on that front. However, some of the camera angles is where things start to get difficult. Because there's some camera angles in the game where you just can't tell where your enemies are. I mean, some of it is the point, it's supposed to be like you turn the corner, oh crap, zombie. But some of them you know they're there, but you can't tell where they are in the hallway, which makes you take some really unnecessary damage. Luckily, this is only a problem in a couple areas of the game. Usually, the camera angles are fine and give you enough information to be able to figure out what you need to do. While I'm talking about controls, I should probably mention the differences between the two playable characters. Here's some information that'll help you pick a character when you first start the game. Jill has more inventory space than Chris, but Chris has more health. He also starts out with the lighter, where Jill gets the lockpick. They also get different defensive weapons, with Chris getting some grenades and Jill getting the taser, but both of them do get daggers. Personally, I prefer playing as Jill because she has the taser and the inventory space, where Chris has some grenades that tend to, well, hurt Chris. One thing that anyone playing Resident Evil should know is that everything is limited. Your ammo, your health items, your inventory, hell, even the amount of times you can save is limited. That last one might seem a little excessive, but as long as you don't save compulsively, you should be fine. Another thing to note is something that I never hear anyone talk about. Resident Evil is, at its core, an adventure game. Think about it. You progress through the game by exploring the map, always trying to solve the next puzzle. The map layout is designed to make you feel like you're always making progress, and you can easily miss out on a few things. Also, just because you're going through a familiar area doesn't mean that the game won't throw something new your way. Just something to keep in mind. Resident Evil is a game that likes to use jump scares. However, the game also likes to use the ever so fun practice of warning you about them first. The first instance most players will find of this is a hallway at the beginning of the game. First time you go through, a window cracks. No big deal, you're a tough guy, you move on with your life. The second time you go through, this tactic can even be as simple as a zombie down the hall in the mirror or one banging on the windows. The reason this tactic works so well is because the enemies themselves are intimidating. They all do tons of damage, and some can even one-hit kill. Speaking of which, it's about time I talk about those monsters. There is of course your regular zombies, which are very stupid but can grab the player and can kill Jill in about 2 hits. When you kill a zombie, you'll notice that their bodies just lay there, waiting. Until eventually... Oh, fuck this! This is what's known as a Crimson Head. He is significantly faster, stronger, and harder to kill than any regular zombie. The only ways to prevent this from happening is either by destroying the head, which is easiest done with a shotgun by the way, or burning the bodies. Chris already has the lighter, so he can start this early, where Jill has to find it. But both need kerosene, which, like everything else in the game, is limited. Zombies aren't the only things you have to worry about. There's also Cerberuses, which are zombified dogs and, due to the movement pattern, the hardest thing to kill, and hunters who don't have to grab you to instant kill you. There's also bug monsters, naked zombies, giant spiders, snakes, sharks, crows, a bee. Even the mansion wants to kill you. Oh yeah, there's this motherfucker. Before reviewing this game, I didn't know this guy existed. I guess he only appears in New Game Plus mode, and I guess I haven't done New Game Plus on this account. The thing about this guy is he runs like a Crimson Head, but you're not allowed to shoot him. If you shoot him, no matter where he is in the room, it's instant death for you. Of course, I probably should have realized that when I first saw him, but oh well. There are also many boss monsters in this game. The cool thing about the boss in this game is that most of them have alternate ways of beating them. My favorite is Plant 42, where you could take him on, or you could create a poison, apply it to its roots, and not use any ammo to kill this thing. Hell, the first time you fight Jan, you can just leave. The sad part about all this is that all the bosses are pushovers compared to regular enemies. If you save the grenade launcher for them and then go in prepared, you won't have any problems. However, one monster newcomers may have issues with is one that is actually new to the remake, Lisa Trevor. Lisa is the daughter of an Umbrella scientist who ended up becoming one of the experiments. She now lives in a shack in the courtyard, wears someone else's face, I believe it's her mother's, and is completely invincible, and only shows up a couple times throughout the game. However, if you go in knowing she's invincible, she becomes less of a threat and more of an inconvenience. Alright, so I'm about to talk about the end of the game. If you don't want the end of the game spoiled for you, go right here to skip to the end of the video. Are we good? Let's continue. After battling through hundreds of monsters, completing every area on the map, learning about a traitor, and then splitting up again, we finally arrive at Umbrella's underground laboratory. Oh yeah, by the way, Umbrella's evil. It's not as important as you think it is. We learn that Chris has been locked up here the whole time, and we have the option of saving him. However, this is only if you found the MO disc, but I'll touch more on that in a second. In the end, you meet back up with Barry and finally confront the traitor and only other character in the game, Wesker. And then this happens.
Thank you, Barry.
Well, what do you know?
No. You see, this would be a surprise to Jill if it wasn't for the fact that Barry has done literally everything possible to make it obvious he's not on her side. How could Barry betray me like that? I mean, all he's done through this entire game is help me out, give me ammo, abandon me in a cave, admit he's going to betray me, and put a gun to my head. How could I have known? Alright, look. I know the twist is supposed to be Wesker's the one behind it all and controlling Barry, but the fact that Jill was surprised when Barry put a gun to her, that's the part that I just find really dumb. Moving on. After this, Wesker reveals that he was threatening Barry's family, and then Barry decides that friends are more important than family, and saves the day. Almost.
Damn it!
Jill and Barry together. In hell. What? Premature.
TMI! I mean, seriously, I don't know why he says this. This is just a really funny line.
Jizz in my pants.
Barry and Wesker get bitch slapped by this thing, and it's time for the final boss. You must harness everything that you've learned, and everything that you have, to defeat Umbrella's greatest creator. It's dead. Yeah, I really shouldn't expect much different from this game. Wesker, still being alive, initiates the self-destruct sequence, forcing the player to escape the facility, being sure to rescue the damsel in distress on the way out. You're about to escape when... Oh no, he's back. This second phase is only slightly harder than the first one, and it goes down pretty easy once you're given a rocket launcher. And with that, our heroes board the helicopter, the mansion blows up, and you finally feel like everything is going to be alright. Until Resident Evil 2. Now, this isn't the only ending, as the ending of the game changes depending on your actions throughout the game. For example, if you do not find the MO disc hidden in the mansion, you can't save Chris near the end. There's also numerous unlockables, but I feel like I should leave those for y'all to discover on your own. Going back and playing it, the Resident Evil Remake is still one of my favorite horror games of all time. Sure, it's not perfect. I mean, the camera angles do hold it back in some areas, and the story is, to be fair, what we've come to expect. However, I still think it's an amazing horror game that I recommend to anyone looking for something new to play. With that in mind, I give the Resident Evil Remake an 8 out of 10. That's all the time I got for today. Be sure to join me next time when I get Welcome to the Family.